legal and creative solutions to bypass reduction in payment methods and bonuses for loyal and new customers.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome to SiGMA Virtual. I'm here with Laurent and Wim, and we're here to talk about legal and creative solutions to bypass reduction in payment methods and bonuses for loyal and new customers. That's quite a long title, but a very interesting subject. Guys, great to have you with us here. I'd really love to kick off, a little bit about a little bit of an overview about what we're here to talk about. We know the industry has changed somewhat over the last few years, and more restrictions, more regulation has led to a substantial number of decrease in payment methods and let's say requirements for the use of those payment methods. But Laurent, we spoke a little bit about this earlier, and I'm very interested in breaking it down a bit. We've seen major changes in major European markets, Sweden, Spain, Belgium, UK, all changing and restricting payment methods. What can you tell us about what's happened and maybe the reasons why you feel that the authorities or the regulators in this case are actually taking these steps?
Yeah, like we said before, it's a few years ago it was more easy for the operators because we can use some wallet, we can use a lot of different solution payment methods to allow player to play with you in all the European country. But now with the regulation, like you said, for Belgium, for example, and UK is forbidden from the credit card. You can only use debit card, for example. Also, the regulation in Norway. Now they cut all the payment provider. It's not anymore possible to pay through a payment provider. You can find some. But as you know, in the past, we can use also some, like you say, miscoding. We're using wallet for gambling. It was more easy to use that. But now we have the obligation to use the 7995 MCC code from Visa and MasterCard. And yeah, the regulation changed, and all the operator, the payment provider, the partner need to find the way to do that legally and to find a way to let the player play everywhere in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And it's really falling onto both the operators and the payment providers to find these creative solutions. We know, for example, when we also mentioned this earlier when we were having a chat, that a lot of it did come down to KYC. For the example, voucher systems, which are a major, let's say, contributor to the gaming industry. We've seen them growing in other regions like Asia and Latam, but let's look at Europe. They are far more restricted, let's say, than they used to be. And one of the biggest keys around here is the KYC on the customer. If someone is using a voucher system, then it's far, let's say, harder to track the source of funds. But what can we do, or what can we expect? Because we said earlier that if we push extended KYCs on these payment methods, it may be a workaround. But what is your opinion of why these steps have been taken and what both PSPs and operators can do to work around them?
Well, it comes down actually to two different type of things. First of all, in the past, where everything was open, the problem was that there was a lot of fraud in the industry, and regulators have taken a fright in this, and that's why they try to put as many restrictions as they think is logical. However, they often forget that if the KYC procedure is thorough enough, the customer is known, and if the customer is known, there are really a lot of possibilities that are still left for us.
Okay, yeah, it's true that there are a lot of possibilities still left. And I think, what's happening in the market, it's becoming a very, very rapidly changing landscape. Laurent, you touched on something really interesting before. I know it's not, let's say, the biggest topic that everyone loves to bring up, but miscoding is something that I think in the past has been quite a trend within the, let's say, the PSP sector. And I think it was a case of not having a choice. If they wanted to operate, there were creative means, as the title suggests. But if you could break down just, what was happening with miscoding in the past, what were, acquirers and PSPs doing to work around the systems then?
Yeah. The thing is, in the past, to use the 6012 of 6051 MCC's code, it was generally what everybody's have done in the past. But now it's most complicated because of the PSD2, and also with the new regulation, the strong customer identification. It's not possible anymore because we have more pressure from the schemes, not only Visa and MasterCard, also the local scheme. If you look at Germany with SoFort, Giropay, and in Netherlands with Ideal, they cut all these payment solutions for the gambling industry because they're waiting for the new licenses. And then what we noticed, it was very complicated now, and we have the obligation for Visa, MasterCard, for example, to declare all the submersion. Then they look at the URLs, and if they find, with another MCCs, not a 7995 MCCs, a gambling company into the URL, you're going to receive directly a fine of 25,000 euro. Then it's very complicated now. It's why we really need to be creative. Yeah.
Okay, but you mentioned that's quite interesting. But just out of curiosity, I mean, as an operator, we deal with a number of service providers, and we're always looking for, let's say, means to operate within particular markets. Now, it's not to say that we're looking for partners who want to go around the laws, but there's a lot of creative solutions coming to the market. You said it yourself. You have issues with support in the past. I've heard of a number of other PSPs going down the same road. Ideal is blocked in Netherlands. You have, let's say, Norway's credit card system, the UK as well. And it's becoming a little bit of a war of the acquirers, or the operators are feeling this, that, when we speak to our partners, it's, oh, we've lost this acquirer, but we have this now. I mean, are these solutions, is this the solution long term? Do acquirers and PSPs alike need to continually open up based on new regulation, or is there a long-term solution? Can we expect, one payment method to become the primary payment method within the gaming industry? Laurent, sorry, those three.
Yeah, no
problem. I think there is a long-term solution. If it's one or other acquirer which is going to take the lead, that's not very clear at this moment, but there is a long-term solution, and the long-term solution is very simple. It's extended KYC. It's closed loop, doing a closed loop track from starting on the casino, going over through a payment service provider with a closed environment, and going through directly back to the casino. If you have something like that, where we can have and maintain an extended KYC, then that will be the solution for the future. If which acquirer is going to adopt this system, that's not clear at this moment, but it will surely happen.
So, sorry, just to go on there, Wim. Sorry, Laurent, to interrupt. You said closed loop. I mean, how would that differentiate between, let's say, the standard extended KYC processes? Because we know KYC is always a little bit tricky, and many customers don't want to give that information up. It's always, as an operator, we chase customers, and very often the only way to get it is simply to shut down an account and say, listen, until we've been provided with the documentation, we can't allow you to play on the site, which is quite a frustration. But you said a closed loop KYC. How can, or what ideas are coming to the market to allow, for these, let's say, new forms of KYC, or what can we expect to make it easier for the customer?
Okay, can I give it an example of the Omnium Secure platform that has been created together with checkout.com? Okay.
Yes, that's an idea of how you're working.
Well, no, I mean, it's the perfect example of a closed loop system. The casino in itself has a lot of information about the customer, yes, but they don't have all the information. That's where the closed loop comes in, because when they start on the casino site, the information there is gathered, or some information there is gathered. Then they are brought to, for example, the Omnium Secure platform. There we have another part of that information which is gathered. And before we are taking it out to checkout.com, those informations combined make sure that the profile that we have of the player is known. And then we can ask for a payment, and only then. If some of these elements are missing, then the payment will not happen. And we can explain in a really easy way to the customer, look, this part of information is missing. And once we have that information, there is no break on how fast a transaction can go on. And afterwards, and that's very important for the customer to know, is that we can send them directly back to the casino. And that's very important. And that's how we maintain the closed loop.
It is interesting. Again, I'm looking at it always from the operator perspective, as it is a struggle for us to chase for KYC, and it is something that is required, especially as any licensed entity. Laurent, we were talking also about some different solutions, because operators do need to get creative, but at the same time you need to fall within your regulated market. So what space you have between those two dynamics are different payment forms. So certain payment forms immediately put you into different thresholds, and we spoke about this recently. As soon as you use a voucher system, you're high up on the threshold, so the KYC needs to come into play immediately. But we spoke about other solutions now, and we also touched on the word crypto, which has been in the market for a while. But what is it that we can expect? What can an operator do to service their customers without, let's say, having to put them through rigorous KYC? Because a lot of customers are quite resilient to that. So just some ideas from your side, Laurent. What is the way forward here?
Yeah, the first thing I want to say, it's you must always have a mix of guys, a player who wants the KYC. This is not an issue. The issue here is because the player, they play more on mobile, and it's more difficult to them to fill all the KYC. But we have a lot of new solution for that. Also, with the open API, everything like this, you can have, of the payment perspective, you can receive a lot of information from the banks of the customer, of the mobile operator also. For example, in France, we're working with the mobile operator, because the mobile operator with the mobile phone, they have all the banking information, all the KYC of the guy, the player. And then if the player put his phone number and fill the phone number, we automatically receive all the KYC from the mobile operator. And this is very easy for them. Then we have a double check, and we know that it's a secure payment, because we know also the SIM card is not stolen. We receive a lot of information. And this is, for me, the new things. But if you want some player, they don't want to be, like I say, have a strong identification. Of course, crypto is different. We have other option, but you need a mix of the two. Sorry about that, but because if you look at the payments provider, the schemes cut a lot of payment provider. Look at the example of Wirecard. Sorry about that. It's a huge example. If you use too much alternative payment solution like crypto, everything like that, you have a huge risk of EML, money laundering. That's it. You have, for an operator's perspective, you need a mix of the two, because it's too risky for you.
Well, that's exactly it. But, it does become a game of juggling. This is something that we have seen a lot. I think it's happening even more now. We've seen not only now the reduction of payment methods, but now, as we said earlier, the reduction of general playability for the customer. In Germany now, the maximum betting amount, you have the same in Sweden, the maximum loss amounts. It's changing the industry. And I think at some point, it doesn't, we're not saying that it is an attempt to choke the industry, but it does create a funnel where customers do have a tendency to start, let's say, looking for alternative routes, because we know as a standard, when you over-regulate a market, you are creating a black market. And you do have an influx as soon as a new regulation comes into place of brands going offshore, of operating outside of licensed jurisdictions. But as an operator is trying to stay within and compete with those solutions, it is very important to find something unique for the customer. Now, you mentioned Norway before. We know that the entire card industry is non-existent there. I know a lot of operators used to operate in Norway. It's something very interesting. But what is the future? Let's just pick this market for a second. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel that would see these markets, softening up regulation? If Wim, as you said, you can introduce closed loop KYC, is it purely a question of KYC, or is it restrictions on the card method?
That's a difficult question. It was a long question. This is a discussion panel. That was a long question. No, it's difficult to say because we don't know. There are multiple reasons why the regulators are trying to limit maximum amounts, maximum loss amounts, maximum bet amounts. On the one hand, KYC and AML are very important, but on the other hand, there is, let's say, the whole of the dopamine story, which is a reason why regulators want to limit betting amounts. I think the only way out of there is if we can, as an industry, convince the regulator that it is not our goal to finalize the customer, but to make him loyal and to have him have a good time. Because in the end, that's what we're doing. It's like playing a game of football. If you make a goal, you're happy about it. It's exactly the same thing that we are doing in this industry. We are making a game for people to enjoy it. And yes, there might be money loss, or yes, there might be a profit at a certain moment. But the main idea must remain that it is a joyful happening. And the regulator, for some or other reasons, try to take that out of the equation. But I think it's very important to keep it inside. And as long as they do not realize that we're just a part of the game, we will always be at a loss. That's really bad for us.
Fair enough. Again, I think the argument has always been that it is meant to be a form of entertainment, but like many sections, there are negative. I mean, at the end of the day, other industries are regulated, let's say, in similar patterns, but we know that online gaming has had increase in regulations over the years, which is leading companies to become more creative. We don't have much time left, but I just want to touch on something really quick. Laurent, with you, we spoke briefly about crypto. And it probably goes back to you as well, Wim, because KYC becomes nearly impossible, in the crypto realm. But we saw, let's say, 2018, 2019 there was a lot of crypto coming into the industry. It was on everyone's mind, but I haven't, let's say, as an operator, seen it as a mainstream. Is it due to restrictions, or is it maybe due to the fact that it's not as easy to convert fiat to crypto, let's say, through an operator's wallet? What would you think the future of crypto looks like in the gambling industry?
Oh, I think it's. I think the most complicated now it's for crypto is the fact that for the moment, if you speak about Visa and MasterCard, it's a very known brand, and the problem is for all the players, they know this brand since years now, and they trust these brands. And the problem is, if you speak about crypto, it's very, volatile due to the money. They are not always very trustful about the fact to play with crypto. And I think it will be a long term to persuade them that they can switch from Visa, MasterCard, or from their local payment method like PayPal, something like this, through a crypto payment. And it's why there is very successful like crypto wallet, because the people can top up their crypto wallet with Visa, MasterCard, of PayPal, of additional payment method. I think it will be the first step for the adoption of the cryptocurrency through the gambling industry.
That's again,
On top
and
of that, it's a fairly, if I may interrupt, Oliver, on top of that, it's a fairly new market. I know that crypto has been among us between a lot of time, but it's a relatively new way of paying something. I think that if we look at crypto or crypto wallets, I think there will be much higher chances with the Facebook money or stuff like Google Pay or even iTunes money. I think those will prevail in the end, I think.
Well, that's really interesting. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. And it's really interesting because you touched on Facebook, Google, Apple, and these are definitely, the directions many companies are going to be looking at. That being said, we don't have time to go into that today, but we'll definitely catch up on this very soon. Guys, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you, SiGMA, for hosting us, and our sponsors, check out. Studio, back over to you.